Hey, my name is Susan Devan Harness, and I'm the author of Bitterroot, a Salish memoir of transracial adoption. I was born in 1959 and removed from my family when I was 18 months old and placed for adoption when I was 2. And as a result, I have no memory of my birth parents. I have no memory of my birth family. And I had closed records like everybody else within that era. Um, and the hope was that I wasn't going to find my way home because, like the adoptions in that era, it was a policy of assimilation. We were supposed to stop being American Indian, and we were supposed to be raised within the dominant culture and learn those ways, and then we would have access to the American dream. And and on one hand, I had that. I was placed with a white couple, and the issues that I had within my family are not that different from the issues that a lot of kids have in their family. One parent's an alcoholic, one parent has mental health issues, but the problem is that when you add a racial aspect to this type of child placement, then those problems get extremely complicated very, very quickly. So I think this biggest struggle that I had during my adoption was trying to fit in, trying to belong. I always felt like I was kind of on the outside looking in. We lived in small rural towns. I was typically the only American Indian kid, or maybe just part of a pocket, but I didn't have a group of people who looked like me. Rural America was not necessarily accepting of children who are different than they are. In the American West, they certainly weren't accepted as American Indians because there are 7 Indian reservations in Montana, and everybody has a story, and most of the stories are negative. So, the benefits that I had is that I had a nice home, and I had access to a better education, and I was able to go to college, and I was able to do all those kind of economically valuable things. But the thing is that I was growing up with a sense that I wasn't good enough because I was still American Indian growing up in white America. And I think adoptive parents should understand that it's going to take a lot more than love to raise your child because their history is far different than the parent history. The parent history comes from a history of power and a history of colonization in so many instances. And the child then comes from a history of colonized and needs to change in order to be acceptable. So it was those costs of trying to be Indian in a white world that I had in both of my worlds. So in the white world, the costs were that we'd been really stereotyped, and we were considered dirty and government subsidized and thieving and slutty. And the problem is that when we got older, when we tried to come back home, those costs were there as well because we spoke weird, right? We didn't have that reservation cadence. And I was asked so many times, why do you talk so funny? And I was called names, well, you're an apple, which means you're red on the outside and white on the inside. You have no concept of who your family is or where you fit in your kinship, which is everything on the reservation and within Indian communities. There is no knowledge I don't know my songs. I don't know my dances. I don't know my stories. And there's also barriers to anyone really wanting to take the time to teach you that. So when you return, you think that, well, I look like you, like I can come home, I was one of you, and you can't go home. It's not that easy. Very few adoptees have like a great trip home. And so, what I think was missing in all of that is I didn't have a positive role model in my life, in my everyday circle of what it meant to be American Indian. And it means that adoptive parents have to do legwork. They have to go to the powwows. They have to make contact at a university. They have to get out, and they have to do legwork to find that that role model that child needs to have, who looks like them and who is okay with looking like that and is okay with moving like that. We need to have those role models.